Have you ever made a mistake so small that you didn't think twice about it, only to have it spiral into something that cost you dearly? That's exactly what happened to me, and it's a decision I still regret. Trust is the foundation of every relationship. It takes so much time and effort to build but can crumble in an instant. I learned this the hard way when I broke my husband's trust. It's been 2 years since we got married, he, a professor, and I, an assistant professor at the same university. Our story seemed like a perfect match at first. He was smart, charismatic, and respected by everyone. When I joined the university, I developed a crush on him, and before long, that admiration blossomed into love. We married after a year of dating, and for a while, life felt like a dream. We worked together, came home together, and built a life filled with shared joy. My husband was everything I thought I wanted: strong, confident, and always knowing what he wanted. But life doesn't always stay that simple, does it? It started innocently enough. A new colleague, George, joined our university. We got along well, chatted occasionally, and one day, when my husband was away, I bumped into George at a cafe. We talked for hours, exchanging numbers before parting ways. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was happily married, after all. But as weeks passed, the texts between George and me became more frequent, more flirtatious. What began as light-hearted banter turned into something that gnawed at my conscience. Then came the fight with my husband. We argued about starting a family. He wanted a child, and I wasn't ready. The fight was ugly, and in my vulnerability, I made the worst decision of my life. George messaged me that night, asking if I wanted to grab a drink. Feeling emotionally drained, I agreed. One thing led to another, and that night, I kissed George. It was a kiss I instantly regretted the next morning, but the damage was done. The guilt consumed me, but I couldn't bring myself to tell my husband. I tried to act normal, but every time he touched me, I felt like a fraud. I had betrayed him, and I knew if he found out, it would destroy everything we had built together. Weeks later, the truth came crashing down. My husband found my phone and read the messages between George and me. He didn't say much, just looked at me with a mix of hurt and betrayal. The man I loved, the man I had shared my life with, had just walked out, leaving behind a hollow emptiness I couldn't fill. I tried to explain that it was just a kiss, a drunken mistake, but my words fell on deaf ears. The distance between us grew until he asked me to leave our home. He needed space, and I thought maybe, just maybe, if I gave him time, he would forgive me. But that forgiveness never came. In the midst of this, I lost my job, fired because my husband, a senior professor, pulled strings to have me removed. It felt like my world was unraveling. I had no job, no home, and no idea how to move forward. George, the person who had unwittingly played a part in my downfall, reached out, offering to help me find a new job. I hesitated, but in my desperation, I accepted. He helped me secure a position at another university, but the shame and guilt still followed me. I couldn't escape what I had done. Months passed, and despite my best efforts, my husband filed for divorce. He refused to speak to me, even when I tried to explain that nothing more had happened between George and me. It was only one kiss, but to my husband, it might as well have been the end of everything. Seeing him move on with his life was the hardest part. When I found out he was dating someone new, it shattered me all over again. And when I saw her, pregnant with his child, the child we had once argued about, it felt like a final nail in the coffin of our relationship. That should have been me, I thought. But I was the one who had thrown it all away. I'm sharing this story not to seek sympathy or absolution, but to make peace with the decisions I've made. I wish I could go back and undo that moment when I let my guard down. But I can't. Now, all I can do is move forward, carrying the lessons I've learned and the weight of my choices with me. After the divorce, I found myself in a haze of confusion and sorrow. I signed the papers, knowing there was no turning back. The man I loved had shut me out, and no amount of pleading or apologizing could fix what I had broken. It's hard to explain how surreal it feels to go from sharing every aspect of your life with someone to becoming a stranger in their world. But that's exactly what happened. I moved into a small apartment in a town nearby, hoping the distance would help me heal. I thought that maybe a fresh start would ease the ache in my chest, but it didn't. The loneliness was suffocating. Every day, I woke up in an unfamiliar space, feeling like a shadow of the person I used to be. I tried to keep busy, pouring myself into work, but even that was taken from me. It wasn't long before I lost the new job George had helped me secure. I knew it was my husband's doing. He was still punishing me from afar. He had always been well-connected, and it seemed that he wasn't satisfied with just ending our marriage. He wanted me to feel the full weight of my betrayal in every aspect of my life. That's when I hit rock bottom. No job, no home, no friends to turn to. The people I once called friends had chosen sides, and naturally, they sided with him. After all, he was the one wronged, and I was the one who had destroyed everything. Even George, the person who had once offered a glimmer of hope, became a painful reminder of the night I'd rather forget. I stopped talking to him too. I tried to reach out to my husband, to explain myself one last time, but he wouldn't hear it. He had blocked me on every platform. It was clear that in his mind, I no longer existed. I was a ghost, left to haunt my own memories. The guilt was unbearable. I went to therapy, hoping it would help, but every session felt like reopening a wound that refused to heal. My therapist encouraged me to focus on rebuilding my life, but how could I when every piece of it had crumbled? How could I move on when the man I loved was already building a new life, one that didn't include me? The worst part came when I had to return to the town we once lived in. I needed my ex-husband's signature on some documents, so I decided to deliver them in person. Deep down, I knew it was just an excuse to see him again, to see if maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for us. I wasn't prepared for what I found. When I rang the doorbell, it wasn't my husband who answered, it was her. The woman I had heard about through mutual friends. The woman who had taken my place in his life. She was beautiful, younger than me, and pregnant with his child. The moment I saw her, it felt like a punch to the gut. This was the life I was supposed to have, the family we had once talked about. But now, it was hers. I handed her the papers, trying to hold back tears as she politely took them from me. She smiled, a smile that seemed to say, "You don't belong here anymore." I nodded, turned, and walked away. As soon as I got back to my apartment, I broke down. I couldn't stop crying. All the pain, all the regret, came rushing back. I started having nightmares again. Dreams where I would see my ex-husband with her, happy, raising their child together. In those dreams, I was always on the outside, watching them build the life I had ruined. Therapy wasn't helping anymore. I couldn't shake the guilt, the regret, the constant reminder of what I had lost. Weeks passed, and I knew I couldn't keep living like this. I had to make a choice and either let this guilt consume me, or try to take control of my life again. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I sent my husband a message. I told him that if he was sure about his decision, I needed the divorce to be finalized as quickly as possible. I wanted closure, even if it meant letting go of the last sliver of hope I had been clinging to. He didn't respond directly, but his lawyers contacted me, and the proceedings moved quickly. During the court appearances, he didn't even look at me. He was done with me, and it hurt more than I could put into words. I kept hoping, right up until the final moment, that he would change his mind, that he would remember the love we once had. But he didn't. The divorce was finalized, and just like that, our story ended. He was free, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. I've been trying to move forward, but it's hard. Some days, I feel like I'm making progress, like I'm learning to live without him. But other days, the weight of everything I've lost is too much to bear. I'm alone in a town where no one knows me, and I'm working a job that barely pays the bills. I've been thinking about saving up for more therapy sessions, hoping that maybe one day I'll be able to forgive myself for what I've done. I still think about him every day. I wonder if he's happy with her, if he ever thinks about me. But I know I can't live in the past forever. All I can do now is try to rebuild, one small step at a time. For anyone reading this, I hope you never have to go through what I've been through. If you're lucky enough to have someone who loves you, hold on to them. Don't make the same mistake I did. A single moment of weakness can destroy everything, and once it's gone, there's no getting it back. Months have passed since the divorce, and life has taken on a quieter, more solitary rhythm. I wake up alone in my small apartment, go to work, come home, and repeat the cycle. Each day is an effort to get through, but I've started to realize that this is my new normal. I still feel the weight of what I've lost, but I'm learning to live with it. After the divorce was finalized, I made a conscious decision to focus on myself. I had spent so much time consumed by guilt and regret, punishing myself for the mistakes I made, that I forgot what it meant to just exist for me. I couldn't change the past. No amount of wishing or what-ifs could bring back my marriage or undo the choices I made. But I could still decide what my future would look like. I started small. Therapy became a regular part of my life again, though this time I approached it differently. Instead of focusing on my guilt and trying to find a way to fix what I had broken, I focused on healing. I began to confront the reality that I had made a terrible mistake, and while it would always be a part of my story, it didn't have to define who I was forever. It hasn't been easy. There are still days when I wake up with the familiar ache of loss, where I think about him and wonder what could have been. But those days are becoming less frequent. I no longer reach out to him, no longer expect a response to the messages I used to send in moments of weakness. He's moved on, and I have to accept that. I recently found a new job, not in academia, but something different, something that allows me to stay busy without being reminded of my past every day. The pay isn't great, but it's enough to keep me afloat, and for now, that's all I need. I'm learning to be okay with the quietness, with the solitude. For the first time in a long time, I'm figuring out who I am without him. Surprisingly, George reached out to me again. After the divorce and everything that happened, I had distanced myself from him, cutting off contact because it was too painful to be reminded of the night that changed everything. But when I received his message, it wasn't what I expected. He wasn't reaching out to rekindle anything, he just wanted to know how I was doing, offering a genuine olive branch of friendship. At first, I was hesitant to respond. Part of me still associated him with my downfall, but another part of me knew that blaming him wasn't fair. The mistakes were mine alone, and holding on to that resentment wasn't going to help me heal. So, I responded. We met for coffee, this time, in a very different context. The flirtation was gone, replaced by a much-needed understanding of everything we had both been through. Talking to George was like revisiting an old chapter in a book you've already read, but seeing it in a new light. He apologized for his role in everything, though I told him it wasn't necessary. He had moved on too, and while we aren't close, having someone who understood the situation and could talk about it without judgment helped more than I realized. In the months that followed, I made a conscious effort to rebuild my life in small but meaningful ways. I reconnected with old friends, ones I hadn't spoken to since the divorce. Slowly, I began to find pieces of myself again. The woman I was before my marriage, before my mistakes. I rediscovered hobbies I had long forgotten, reading, painting, and even hiking. These small moments of joy became lifelines in a sea of uncertainty. But no matter how far I've come, there's still a part of me that feels haunted by what happened. Seeing my ex-husband's new life from afar, knowing that he's building a family without me, is a pain that lingers. I don't think that will ever fully go away. There will always be a part of me that wishes I could go back in time, that imagines what my life would have been like if I hadn't made that fateful mistake. The most difficult part of the healing process has been forgiving myself. It's one thing to acknowledge that you've done wrong, but it's another to allow yourself to move past it. I'm learning that forgiveness isn't something that happens all at once. It's a process, a decision you have to make every day, even when it feels impossible. Some days, I wake up and feel at peace with everything that happened. Other days, the weight of it all comes crashing back down, and I have to remind myself that healing isn't linear. I still think about my ex-husband from time to time. Not in the way I used to, with the desperate hope that he'll take me back, but with a quiet sadness for what we lost. I've accepted that we won't have a future together, but I also know that I'll always care for him in some way. He was an important part of my life, and even though I destroyed our relationship, I can't erase the good memories we shared. As for George, our paths have diverged once again. After that one conversation, we decided it was best to let things be. We parted on amicable terms, with no hard feelings, but also with no reason to stay in touch. It was the closure we both needed. Now, I'm focused on what comes next. I've started saving up to move to a new city, a place where no one knows my story, where I can start fresh without the shadows of my past hanging over me. I'm not running away. I'm giving myself a chance to rebuild my life on my own terms. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know that I'm stronger than I was before. For anyone reading this, I hope you take away one thing: mistakes don't define us, but how we choose to move forward does. I've made peace with the fact that I'll never have the life I once imagined, but that doesn't mean I can't have a good life. It just means I have to be brave enough to build it again, brick by brick. A year has passed since I made the decision to leave everything behind and start fresh. It wasn't easy, but I knew that staying in the same place, surrounded by the same memories, would only hold me back. Moving to a new city was my way of closing that chapter of my life and opening the door to something new. The transition wasn't as smooth as I'd hoped. When I first arrived, everything felt unfamiliar and overwhelming. I didn't know anyone, and for the first time in my life, I was truly on my own. There were nights when the loneliness crept back in, and I would find myself replaying the mistakes of the past in my head. But with each day that passed, I found myself getting stronger, little by little. One of the first things I did after moving was join a local community center. I signed up for art classes, a passion I'd forgotten about during the chaos of my marriage and its aftermath. Picking up a paintbrush again after all those years felt like reconnecting with a part of myself I had lost. The act of creating something from nothing, of expressing my emotions on a canvas, became a form of therapy. It was a way to release all the guilt and sadness that had been weighing me down for so long. The people in the class were kind, and over time, I started to form new friendships. These weren't the kinds of friends who knew every detail of my past. There were no awkward silences or whispers behind my back. These were people who only knew the person I was becoming, not the one I had been. It felt liberating to be able to start over, to build connections that weren't clouded by my past mistakes. One of the friends I made was a woman named Claire. She was a single mother of 2 and had her own story of heartbreak and rebuilding. We bonded over our shared experiences, and she became a source of strength for me. Claire was the kind of person who didn't dwell on the past. She was focused on the present and what she could do to make her life better for herself and her children. Her resilience inspired me. Through our friendship, I began to realize that it was okay to let go of the guilt I had been carrying. I had been so focused on punishing myself for what I had done that I forgot I still had the ability to create a meaningful life, even if it didn't look like the life I had imagined before. One day, during one of our long talks, Claire said something that stuck with me: "You're allowed to forgive yourself, you know. You can't keep living in the past forever. At some point, you have to let it go." Her words hit me hard because they were true. I had been holding onto my guilt as if it were a form of atonement, but in reality, all it was doing was preventing me from moving forward. That night, after our conversation, I made a promise to myself that I would start embracing the future instead of dwelling on the past. I began to shift my focus to what I could control. I worked harder at my new job, invested more time in my hobbies, and started taking care of myself in ways I hadn't before. I began going on walks in the mornings, exploring the quiet streets of my new city as the sun rose. It became my time to reflect, to breathe, and to remind myself that life could still be beautiful. As the months went by, I found myself becoming more comfortable with the person I was now. I wasn't the woman who had destroyed her marriage anymore. I was someone who had learned from her mistakes and was building a new life. I wasn't defined by my past, but by the choices I was making in the present. I've started to date again, slowly. At first, the idea of letting someone into my life felt impossible. I wasn't sure if I was ready to trust someone, or even if I was ready to trust myself. But Claire, always the optimist, convinced me to give it a try. She reminded me that everyone deserves a second chance, even me. I went on a few dates, nothing serious, just casual meetups. It was strange at first, talking to someone new, sharing parts of myself without revealing the heavy baggage I carried. But it also felt refreshing. I realized that I didn't have to lay my entire past out on the table from the start. I could take my time, let things unfold naturally, and see where they led. One man I met, Alex, has become more than just a casual date. We've been seeing each other for a few months now, and while I'm still cautious, I can feel myself opening up to the idea of love again. Alex is kind, patient, and understanding. He doesn't push me to share more than I'm ready to, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can be vulnerable with someone without fear of being judged. I'm not rushing into anything, though. I've learned that healing takes time, and I'm still on that journey. But Alex has shown me that it's possible to love again, even after everything I've been through. He knows that I've been hurt, that I've made mistakes, but he doesn't hold that against me. And in return, I'm learning to be kind to myself, to stop holding my past mistakes over my own head like a punishment I can never escape. There are still days when the memories come back, when I think about my ex-husband and wonder if he's truly happy with his new family. But those thoughts don't consume me the way they used to. I've come to terms with the fact that our story ended, and it ended for a reason. Maybe we weren't meant to be, and maybe that's okay. I'm learning to forgive myself, to let go of the guilt, and to embrace the idea that I'm worthy of happiness, even after everything that happened. The road hasn't been easy, and I know there will be more challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I'm hopeful. This new life I'm building, it's mine. It's imperfect, and it's messy, but it's mine. And that's enough. A full year has passed since I made the decision to start over. Looking back now, I see how far I've come. The pain, the guilt, the heartache, they haven't disappeared completely, but they don't control me anymore. I've learned to live with them, like old scars that remind me of what I've been through but no longer define who I am. My life has changed in so many ways since I left my old town. I've created a new routine, surrounded myself with new friends, and found stability in my new job. It's not glamorous, and it's certainly not the life I once imagined for myself, but it's mine, and I've found a strange sense of comfort in that. Alex and I are still seeing each other. It's been slow, and we're taking things one step at a time, but there's something about this relationship that feels different from anything I've experienced before. He's patient, understanding, and never pushes me to move faster than I'm comfortable with. I've opened up to him about parts of my past, the divorce, the guilt I carried for so long, and he listened without judgment. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm not defined by my mistakes. With him, I'm just me. That doesn't mean the journey has been easy. There are still moments when the weight of everything I've been through creeps up on me. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I find myself thinking about my ex-husband. Not with regret, but with a sense of acceptance. I wonder how he's doing, if he's happy with his new family. I wonder if he ever thinks about me, or if he's fully moved on. I've accepted that those thoughts will come and go. I no longer try to suppress them. Instead, I acknowledge them, let them pass, and remind myself that my life is moving forward, even if the past will always be a part of me. I can't change what happened, but I can change how I respond to it. One of the most important things I've learned through all of this is the power of forgiveness, not just for others, but for myself. For so long, I held on to the belief that I didn't deserve happiness because of the mistakes I made. I thought that by punishing myself, I was somehow paying for the hurt I caused. But I've come to realize that forgiveness isn't about excusing what I did, it's about recognizing that I'm human, that I made a mistake, and that I have the right to move forward without being weighed down by it forever. I think back to the person I was when all of this began, the woman who made a small, thoughtless mistake that spiraled into something much bigger. I have compassion for her now. She was lost, vulnerable, and didn't understand the consequences of her actions. I've learned from her mistakes, and in doing so, I've grown into someone stronger, someone who knows what she wants and what she's capable of. That strength has carried me through some of the hardest moments of my life. When I first moved to this new city, I didn't know if I'd ever find peace. I was haunted by the guilt and the fear that I would never be able to rebuild what I had lost. But now, standing on the other side of it all, I see that peace isn't something that just comes to you. It's something you have to work for, day by day, moment by moment. I've found peace in the small things. In the mornings when I walk through the park, listening to the birds and feeling the sun on my face. In the evenings when I sit down to paint, letting my emotions flow through the brush onto the canvas. In the quiet moments I spend with Alex, where we don't need to say much, just being together is enough. There's a beauty and simplicity that I never appreciated before. For so long, I was chasing something bigger, a perfect life, a perfect marriage, a perfect version of myself. But perfection is an illusion, and it's in the imperfect moments, the struggles, and the lessons learned that I've found the most growth. I've also made peace with the idea that I may never fully let go of the past, and that's okay. My mistakes will always be a part of my story, but they no longer hold power over me. They've shaped who I am, and in many ways, they've made me more compassionate, more understanding of others who are struggling. I know what it's like to fall, to lose everything, and to rebuild from the ground up. That experience has made me stronger, but it's also made me softer, more open to the complexities of life and the choices people make. As I continue this journey, I've decided to focus on what brings me joy, what makes me feel alive. I've started volunteering at the community center where I took art classes, helping others find their creative outlets, just as I did. It's fulfilling in a way I never expected, and it reminds me that life can have meaning beyond our personal struggles. Alex and I have talked about the future, though we're in no rush to make any big decisions. For now, we're enjoying what we have, and that's enough. I don't know what the future holds, but I've learned that it's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to take things one day at a time. I've also reconnected with my family. For a long time, I kept them at a distance, ashamed of what had happened and afraid of their judgment. But when I finally opened up to them, I was met with love and support. They reminded me that we all make mistakes, and that it's how we grow from them that matters. Their forgiveness helped me find my own. Now, as I stand at this new chapter in my life, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time: hope. Hope for the future, hope for continued healing, and hope that I can create a life that brings me happiness, even if it looks different from the one I once dreamed of. To anyone who has ever felt like they've lost everything because of one mistake, I want you to know this: you can rebuild. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight, but it's possible. You are not your mistakes, and your life is not over just because one chapter has ended. There's always a chance for a new beginning, as long as you're willing to take that first step. I'm not the person I was before, and I'm grateful for that. I've been through pain, heartbreak, and loss, but I've come out the other side with a deeper understanding of who I am and what I want from life. And that, to me, is the greatest victory of all. Time has a way of moving forward, even when it feels like everything around you has stopped. For the first time in a long time, I find myself looking ahead, not with fear or uncertainty, but with quiet confidence. Life is no longer about merely surviving, it's about living. And I'm finally ready to live. Since moving to this new city, my world has expanded in ways I never thought possible. I've built a small but meaningful circle of friends, reconnected with my passions, and started laying the foundation for a life that feels like mine. It hasn't been without its challenges, but every day, I'm reminded that growth comes from pushing through the discomfort, from allowing yourself to be vulnerable and open to change. The art classes I began taking have become more than just a hobby. A few months ago, one of my instructors suggested I enter a local art exhibition. At first, I hesitated. My paintings had always been a private expression of my emotions, a way to work through the things I couldn't put into words. But after some encouragement from my friends, especially Claire, I decided to give it a try. I submitted a few of my pieces, not expecting much. To my surprise, not only were my paintings accepted, but one of them was sold at the exhibition. It was a surreal experience, knowing that something I had created, a reflection of my personal journey, had resonated with someone else. That moment gave me a sense of validation I hadn't realized I needed. It wasn't about the money or the recognition, it was about knowing that I could still create beauty in the world, even after everything I had been through. Encouraged by this, I've started to take my art more seriously. I'm not sure where it will lead, but for now, I'm enjoying the process. I've found that when I'm painting, the rest of the world fades away. It's just me and the canvas, and that sense of freedom, of creation, is something I've come to cherish. Alex has been a constant source of support during this time. Our relationship has deepened in ways that feel natural and right. We've talked about the future, something I used to shy away from. But now, the thought of building a future with someone doesn't scare me anymore. I'm no longer afraid of repeating my past mistakes because I've learned from them. I know what I want, and I know the kind of person I want to be in a relationship. We haven't rushed into anything, but we're taking steps together. Alex understands that I'm still healing, and he's never pressured me to move faster than I'm ready for. That's one of the things I appreciate most about him, his patience and kindness. He accepts me for who I am, flaws and all, and that has made all the difference. A few weeks ago, we decided to take a trip together, a weekend getaway to the mountains. It was a chance to disconnect from the world, to spend time together without the distractions of everyday life. We hiked through the woods, sat by the fire at night, and talked about everything and nothing. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace, like I was exactly where I was meant to be. That trip solidified something for me, something I had been hesitant to admit. I'm ready to move forward. Not just in my relationship with Alex, but in my life as a whole. For so long, I was stuck in the past, defined by my mistakes and the hurt I had caused. But now, I see that I have the power to create a future that isn't weighed down by what came before. There's a clarity that comes with accepting your past and choosing to live in the present. I no longer dwell on what might have been. My ex-husband, the life we once shared, it feels like another lifetime now. I don't wish him ill, in fact, I hope he's happy with the life he's built. But I no longer feel tied to that chapter of my life. It's closed, and I've made peace with it. As I look ahead, there's a sense of excitement about the possibilities. I've decided to apply for a position at a local art studio, where I can teach workshops and continue developing my own work. It's a step outside my comfort zone, but that's exactly why I want to do it. I've spent too much time holding myself back, and now I'm ready to take the leap. I've also reconnected with my family in a way I never expected. They've been incredibly supportive of my journey, offering love and encouragement when I needed it most. My relationship with them has grown stronger, and I'm grateful to have them in my life. I've even started visiting them more often, something I used to avoid because it reminded me of everything I had lost. But now, those visits feel like a return to a part of myself that I thought I had left behind. Claire, too, has been a constant in my life. Her resilience continues to inspire me, and we've become each other's sounding boards, always there to lift each other up when things get tough. She's a reminder that healing isn't a solitary journey. We need people who understand, who can walk alongside us as we find our way. As for Alex and me, we're taking things day by day. We've talked about moving in together at some point, but we're not rushing it. For now, we're enjoying what we have, this shared space of understanding, love, and growth. There's something freeing about not feeling the need to control or predict the future. We're both content to let things unfold as they will, trusting that we'll continue to grow together. There are still moments when doubt creeps in, when the old insecurities surface. But those moments are fleeting now. I've learned that doubt is a part of life, but it doesn't have to dictate how we live. I've come to trust myself again, to believe that I'm capable of making choices that align with who I am and what I want. I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I do know this: I'm no longer afraid of it. I'm no longer defined by the mistakes of my past, nor am I bound by the pain I once carried. I've built a life that feels authentic, a life where I'm free to grow, create, and love without fear. To anyone who has been following my story, I want to say this: there's always hope. No matter how far you fall, no matter how lost you feel, you can rebuild. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes courage, but it's possible. You are not your mistakes. You are not defined by your worst moments. You are capable of so much more than you realize. I'm living proof of that. I've found peace, not because everything in my life is perfect, but because I've learned to embrace the imperfections. I've learned to forgive myself and to give myself the space to grow. The future is uncertain, but that's okay. I'm ready for whatever comes next. Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. For the past few months, I've been learning to embrace the unexpected, to welcome change rather than fear it. If there's anything I've learned from the journey I've been on, it's that the future is never set in stone. We're always writing new chapters, even when we don't realize it. After settling into my new city and growing comfortable in my new routine, something I never anticipated happened. I started feeling a sense of calm, of belonging. For so long, I was in survival mode, doing whatever I could to get through each day. But now, I'm living with intention. I wake up excited for what the day holds, and that's something I haven't felt in years. Alex and I have grown even closer in the months since we took that weekend trip together. Our relationship feels effortless in a way that still surprises me. I'm used to love being something you fight for, something complicated and tumultuous. But with Alex, it's different. We understand each other on a level that doesn't require constant explanation or reassurance. There's a quiet strength in our relationship, and it's allowed me to let go of the fear I used to carry. Recently, we took another step forward, one that, not long ago, would have terrified me. We've decided to move in together. It wasn't a rushed decision. We took our time, discussed what it would mean for both of us, and agreed that we're ready for this next chapter. It feels like the natural progression of where we are, and for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid of commitment. I'm ready. We found a cozy apartment in the city, just a few blocks from where I've been living. The process of packing up my things and moving into a shared space was surprisingly emotional. As I boxed up my belongings, I couldn't help but think about how far I've come. This move isn't just about sharing a home with Alex, it's about fully stepping into the life I've been building for myself, a life that no longer revolves around the mistakes of my past. Our new place is small, but it's perfect for us. We've spent the past few weeks decorating it together, making it feel like home. Every corner of the apartment has a piece of both of us, our shared memories, our laughter, and the quiet moments we've spent together. It's the first time I've felt truly settled, like I'm no longer running from something or trying to prove anything. I'm simply living. In addition to the personal milestones, I've also been making strides in my career. After being accepted into the local art community, I started teaching workshops at the art studio. It's been a dream come true, watching others discover their own creativity and seeing them transform through the process of creating. Every time I walk into the studio, I feel a sense of purpose, a feeling I once thought I had lost forever. The art workshops have also brought me new opportunities. A few weeks ago, I was approached by a local gallery owner who expressed interest in showcasing some of my work. At first, I was hesitant. I've always been modest about my art, viewing it as something personal rather than something to be displayed. But after some encouragement from Claire and Alex, I decided to go for it. It's a small exhibit, but it feels like a huge step for me. Standing in front of my paintings in the gallery, I felt a deep sense of pride. These weren't just images on canvas, they were pieces of my journey, reflections of everything I've been through and everything I've overcome. Each stroke of the brush represented a moment of pain, of growth, of healing. And now, they were out in the world for others to see, to interpret, to connect with. It was a vulnerable moment, but also an empowering one. The gallery exhibit was a success, and I even sold a few more pieces. But more than that, it was a reminder that my life is moving forward, that I'm creating something new out of the ashes of what once was. I'm no longer defined by my past. I'm no longer held back by the mistakes I made. Instead, I'm defined by the choices I'm making now, by the life I'm building with Alex, by the art I'm creating, and by the connections I'm forming with others. One day, after the exhibit, Alex surprised me with a simple but meaningful gesture. We were sitting on the couch in our new apartment, talking about the future. He looked at me, took my hand, and said, "I'm proud of you." Those words meant more than he could ever know. For so long, I wasn't proud of myself. I was consumed by regret and self-doubt. But now, hearing those words from someone who knows me so well, I realize that I've come full circle. There's still a part of me that reflects on the past, but it's not with pain or regret anymore. It's with acceptance. I've made peace with my ex-husband and the life we once had. I've made peace with the fact that he's moved on and built a family of his own. And I've made peace with the woman I was when I made those mistakes. She didn't know better then, but I do now. Every so often, I get glimpses of my old life through social media updates or mutual friends. My ex-husband's life seems happy and fulfilled, and I'm genuinely glad for him. We haven't spoken since the divorce, and that's okay. Our paths have diverged, but that doesn't mean they didn't have value when they were aligned. I've learned to hold space for both the good and the bad memories, knowing that they were all part of my journey. As for me, I'm continuing to grow in ways I never expected. I'm considering going back to school to pursue a degree in art therapy, a career that would combine my love for art with my desire to help others heal. It feels like the next natural step, though I'm still figuring out the logistics. For now, I'm allowing myself to dream again, to imagine what the future might hold without feeling overwhelmed by it. This new chapter of my life isn't about perfection. It's about learning to live with imperfection, about embracing the messiness of life and finding beauty in it. It's about love, not just romantic love, but love for myself, love for my passions, and love for the possibilities that lie ahead. I'm no longer waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm no longer afraid of what might go wrong. Instead, I'm looking forward to what could go right. As I continue to walk this path, I'm reminded that life is a series of choices. And with each choice I make, I'm choosing to live fully, authentically, and without fear. I'm choosing to believe in my own strength, my own worth, and my own ability to create the life I want. To anyone reading this, I hope my story shows that it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to heal, to grow, and to embrace the unknown. Life doesn't always go as planned, but that's where the magic happens, in the moments we never saw coming. I don't know exactly where this road will take me, but I do know this: I'm ready for whatever comes next. It's funny how life can feel like a series of beginnings and endings, but over time, I've realized that every ending is just another chance to begin again. As I've settled into this new chapter of my life, I've learned that embracing second chances, both with others and with myself, is one of the most powerful things I can do. Moving in with Alex has been a seamless transition, and living together has brought us closer in ways I didn't expect. I was initially nervous about sharing my space, about letting someone see all the little quirks and imperfections that come with day-to-day life. But Alex has never made me feel like I had to hide any part of myself. In fact, he's encouraged me to be more open, more vulnerable, and it's brought a new depth to our relationship. One night, as we were sitting on the balcony of our apartment, looking out over the city lights, we talked about the future again. This time, it didn't feel daunting. Instead, it felt exciting. We talked about our dreams, our goals, and what we both want out of life. For the first time, I realized that I no longer feel like I'm just trying to fix things from my past. I'm actively building something new, something that reflects who I am now, not who I was before. That conversation sparked something in me, a desire to push myself even further, to see what else I could create. I've been thinking more seriously about going back to school to study art therapy. It feels like the perfect blend of everything I've been passionate about: art, healing, and helping others. I've spent so much time healing from my own pain, and now I want to use that experience to help others on their own journeys. After doing some research, I found a program at a nearby university that seems like a perfect fit. It's flexible enough to allow me to continue working at the studio, while also giving me the education and training I need to become an art therapist. I haven't applied yet, but I'm planning to. Just the idea of taking this step fills me with a sense of purpose I haven't felt in a long time. In the meantime, I've continued to teach workshops at the art studio. The more time I spend there, the more I realize how much I love helping people discover their own creativity. Watching someone come into the studio, unsure of themselves, and leave with a sense of accomplishment and pride, it's incredibly fulfilling. I've even started offering private sessions to a few students who want more personalized guidance, and it's been amazing to see how much progress they've made, not just in their art, but in their confidence. One of my students, a woman named Emily, has been coming to my workshops for a few months now. She's going through a difficult time. Her marriage recently ended, and she's struggling to find her footing again. When she first came to the studio, she was hesitant, unsure of whether she even had any artistic talent. But week by week, I watched her grow. Her paintings started to reflect her emotions, her struggles, and eventually, her hope. During one of our sessions, she opened up to me about what she was going through, and I couldn't help but feel a connection to her story. I saw so much of my own journey in hers, the pain of loss, the uncertainty of what comes next, the slow but steady process of rebuilding. I realized, in that moment, that I wasn't just teaching her how to paint. I was helping her heal. And in doing so, I was also continuing to heal myself. I think that's one of the most profound lessons I've learned through all of this, that healing isn't a solitary process. We heal through our connections with others, through sharing our stories and offering support. Emily has become more than just a student, she's become a friend, and seeing her progress reminds me that we're all capable of more than we realize, even when we're at our lowest. As for Alex, our relationship continues to grow in ways that feel natural and right. We've settled into a comfortable rhythm, cooking dinner together in the evenings, exploring the city on weekends, and making time for the things that matter most to us. We've talked about taking a trip together, somewhere far away, just the two of us. It's something we both want, a chance to escape the everyday routine and experience something new together. It's funny, though, I don't feel like I'm escaping anything anymore. I'm not running away from my past, and I'm not trying to prove that I've moved on. I know I have. The proof is in how I feel every morning when I wake up next to Alex, and how I approach my work at the studio, and in how I think about the future. The past will always be a part of me, but it no longer defines me. I've made peace with it. There was a time when I couldn't imagine feeling this way, when I thought that the mistakes I made would haunt me forever. But life has a way of surprising you, of showing you that even the darkest moments can lead to something beautiful if you're willing to keep moving forward. I've also been spending more time with Claire, who remains a constant source of support and inspiration. She's been through her own ups and downs, but she's never let them keep her down for long. We've started a new tradition. Every month, we pick a new activity to try together. Last month, it was a pottery class. Neither of us had any experience, and we were both terrible at it, but we laughed the entire time. It reminded me of the importance of friendship, of having people in your life who can lift you up and make you laugh, even when things feel heavy. It's moments like those, simple, joyful, and full of laughter, that remind me how far I've come. There's a lightness in my life now that I never thought I would feel again. I'm no longer burdened by guilt, no longer defined by the mistakes I made. Instead, I'm defined by the choices I'm making now, by the person I've become through it all. As I move forward, I'm filled with a sense of gratitude for the second chances I've been given, for the love and support of the people around me, and for the opportunity to create a life that feels authentic and meaningful. I know there will still be challenges ahead, but I also know that I'm strong enough to face them. I've learned to trust myself again, to trust in the process of healing, and to trust that no matter what happens, I'll be okay. To anyone reading this, I want you to know that it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to embrace a second chance, whether it's in love, in your career, or in your relationship with yourself. Life doesn't always go as planned, but that's where the beauty lies. In the unexpected, in the opportunities that arise when you least expect them, and in the power of second chances. I'm living proof that you can rebuild, that you can heal, and that you can create a life that feels true to who you are. And that, to me, is the greatest gift of all. As time moves forward, I'm learning that life is about more than just second chances. It's about finding purpose in the things we do and the people we connect with. The more I reflect on everything that has happened, the more I realize that my story isn't just about loss or mistakes. It's about the strength to create something meaningful out of the broken pieces, something that goes beyond simply moving on. My art, my relationships, and my desire to help others have become the pillars of my new life. Every day feels like another opportunity to grow, to build on the foundation I've created, and to deepen my connection with the world around me. It's no longer about survival, it's about flourishing. Since moving in with Alex, our relationship has only grown stronger. We've settled into a rhythm that feels both natural and exciting. It's not just about the day-to-day routines we've developed, but also the moments when we talk about the future, where we want to travel, what dreams we want to pursue, and the life we're building together. One evening, as we were sitting on the couch, he looked at me and said something I'll never forget: "You make me want to be a better person." His words struck me deeply because, for so long, I was the one trying to rebuild myself, trying to be better after everything I had been through. To hear him say that I inspired him made me realize how far I've come. I'm no longer just someone trying to overcome her past, I'm someone who is capable of inspiring others, too. Our conversations have shifted from the tentative early days of our relationship to something deeper and more meaningful. We've started discussing the idea of a future together in more concrete terms. It's not something we're rushing into, but the fact that we're even having these discussions fills me with a sense of calm. There's no anxiety, no fear, just the quiet understanding that we're both ready for whatever comes next, together. At the same time, my art has become more than just a creative outlet. It's become a way to communicate my journey, to express the emotions I once kept hidden, and to connect with others in ways I never expected. After the success of my gallery exhibit, I've continued to pour myself into my work. I've started exploring new styles and techniques, pushing myself to step outside of my comfort zone. The art studio has become my sanctuary, a place where I can not only teach but also learn from others. My students, like Emily, remind me every day of the power of creativity to heal. Emily has made incredible progress, not just in her art but in her personal life. She started to open up more, sharing stories of her own healing journey, and watching her transformation has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. In fact, Emily recently confided in me that she's thinking about pursuing art more seriously. She's been working on a series of paintings that reflect her experiences with grief and recovery, and she's considering submitting them to a local exhibition. Hearing her talk about her newfound passion and confidence was a full-circle moment for me. I saw in her the same uncertainty and fear I once had, and now I see the same hope and strength that I've found in myself. Helping others heal through art has made me more certain than ever that pursuing a degree in art therapy is the right path for me. I've officially applied to the program at the nearby university, and while I'm waiting to hear back, I'm filled with a sense of anticipation and excitement. It feels like the next step in a journey that has been years in the making, a step that will allow me to combine everything I've learned about healing, about creativity, and about human connection, into something that can truly make a difference in the lives of others. Claire, ever the supportive friend, has been cheering me on every step of the way. We've continued our tradition of trying new activities each month, and it's become one of the highlights of my life. Recently, we decided to try a cooking class together, something completely outside of both our comfort zones. We were a mess in the kitchen, but it didn't matter. We laughed the entire time, and it reminded me of the importance of having people in your life who make you feel light, who make even the most challenging moments fun. Claire has also been going through her own transformation. After years of focusing solely on her children and her career, she started to explore her own passions again: photography, writing, and even painting. Watching her reclaim parts of herself that she had set aside for so long has been inspiring. We've become each other's biggest supporters, constantly pushing each other to step outside of our comfort zones and embrace the things that bring us joy. With all of this growth and change, I've also taken some time to reflect on my relationship with my past. There was a time when the thought of my ex-husband and everything that happened between us filled me with sadness and regret. But now, it feels different. It feels like a distant memory, something that shaped me but no longer holds power over me. I recently came across a photo of us from our wedding day. Instead of the sharp pang of regret I used to feel, I found myself smiling. It was a beautiful day, and for a time, we were happy. That's what I choose to remember now, the good moments, the love that was once there. I've forgiven myself for the mistakes I made, and I've come to terms with the fact that we weren't meant to be. And that's okay. Our paths have diverged, but that doesn't mean the time we spent together wasn't valuable. As I continue to move forward, I've started to think about what kind of legacy I want to leave behind. Not in the grand, monumental sense, but in the everyday ways that we touch the lives of others. Through my art, through my relationships, and through the work I hope to do as an art therapist, I want to create something meaningful, something that helps others heal and find their own sense of purpose. Life doesn't always go the way we plan, but sometimes the unexpected detours lead us to exactly where we're meant to be. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I do know this: I'm ready for it. I'm ready to continue growing, to continue learning, and to continue building a life that feels true to who I am. To anyone reading this, I want you to know that it's okay to take your time. Healing isn't a race, and there's no set timeline for finding your way. What matters is that you keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step at a time. There will be moments of doubt, moments when you wonder if you'll ever truly be okay. But those moments don't last forever. They're just part of the process. You are capable of more than you realize. And no matter where you are on your journey, know that you have the power to create something beautiful out of even the most painful experiences. I'm living proof that second chances are real, that healing is possible, and that life, messy, imperfect, and full of surprises, can be beautiful again. As I stand here today, reflecting on everything that's brought me to this point, I realize something that I never thought I would: I'm at peace. True peace, not the fleeting kind that comes and goes with moments of distraction, but the deep, enduring sense of calm that comes from knowing you've made it through the storm and found solid ground on the other side. It hasn't been easy. The path I've walked over the past few years has been filled with pain, regret, and uncertainty. There were times when I thought I'd never be able to forgive myself, let alone find happiness again. But now, as I look at the life I've built, my relationship with Alex, my art, the friendships I've nurtured, I know that every step, every struggle, was worth it. The acceptance letter from the university finally arrived last week. I've been officially accepted into the art therapy program, and I start classes in a few months. When I opened the letter, I felt a rush of emotions, joy, excitement, and a deep sense of fulfillment. This is the culmination of everything I've worked toward, and it's the beginning of a new chapter, one where I get to help others heal, just as I've healed myself. The idea of returning to school at this stage in my life might have seemed daunting once, but now it feels like a natural progression. I'm not starting over, I'm building on the foundation I've created. Art therapy combines my passion for creativity with my desire to make a difference in the lives of others. It's the perfect blend of who I've become and what I value most. Alex, as always, has been my biggest supporter. When I told him about the acceptance letter, he wrapped me in a tight embrace and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." His unwavering belief in me has been a constant source of strength. Our relationship has grown into something steady and unshakable, built on trust, mutual respect, and a deep sense of understanding. We're planning our future together, but without the pressure of rushing. We know that whatever happens, we'll face it as a team. We've talked about taking a longer trip, perhaps to Europe, something we've both always dreamed of. It's exciting to imagine exploring new places together, creating memories that will last a lifetime. But what excites me even more is the quiet moments we share now. It's the way we laugh over dinner, the way we hold hands during our evening walks, the way we sit in comfortable silence, knowing that we're exactly where we're meant to be. As for my art, it's taken on a new life of its own. The more I explore different mediums and techniques, the more I discover about myself. My paintings have become more abstract, more emotionally charged, and I've started incorporating more of my personal journey into them. My work has been featured in a few more local exhibits, and while the recognition is nice, it's not what drives me. What matters most is that I'm creating something that feels authentic, something that tells my story in a way words never could. Recently, I was invited to give a talk at a local community event about the healing power of art. Standing in front of a room full of people, sharing my story and how art helped me find my way back to myself, was a surreal experience. I never imagined that my journey could inspire others, but there I was, speaking with confidence, knowing that my story mattered. People came up to me afterward, thanking me for my honesty, for showing them that healing is possible, even when it feels impossible. That's what I've come to realize. My story, once filled with regret and pain, has transformed into something powerful. It's no longer just about the mistakes I made or the hardships I faced. It's about resilience, growth, and the possibility of new beginnings. I'm living proof that you can rebuild, that you can rise from the ashes of your past and create something beautiful. Emily, the student I've been working with at the studio, has blossomed in ways that fill me with pride. Her paintings have evolved from tentative strokes to bold, expressive works of art. She's even submitted her work to an exhibition, something she never thought she'd have the courage to do. Seeing her growth has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. She's not just a student anymore, she's a friend, a fellow traveler on this journey of healing and self-discovery. Claire, too, continues to be my rock. We've grown closer than ever, and our monthly adventures have become a cherished tradition. From cooking classes to hiking trips, we've found joy in trying new things and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones. She's become a reminder that life is meant to be lived fully, with laughter, exploration, and connection. Claire's resilience and positivity inspire me every day, and I'm grateful for her friendship. As I stand on the edge of this new chapter, I'm filled with a sense of gratitude for the second chances I've been given, for the people who have supported me, and for the strength I found within myself to keep moving forward. I no longer look back with regret. Instead, I see my past as part of the tapestry of my life, woven into who I am today. The future is no longer something that fills me with fear. It's something I look forward to with excitement and anticipation. I don't have all the answers, and I don't need to. What I know is that I've built a life that feels true to me, a life where I'm surrounded by love, creativity, and purpose. To anyone who has been following my story, I want to leave you with this: you are not defined by your mistakes. You are not bound by the pain of your past. You have the power to heal, to grow, and to create a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling. It won't always be easy, and there will be moments when you doubt yourself, but I promise you, there is always a way forward. Keep believing in yourself, even when it feels hard. Keep moving, even when the path ahead seems unclear. And remember, you are worthy of love, happiness, and second chances. I've learned that sometimes the most beautiful parts of life come from the places we least expect. The journey is never linear, but it's always worth it. As I close this chapter and look toward the next, I'm reminded of something I heard once: the best is yet to come. And I believe that now, with all my heart.